So, for many years, Kodak had flooded the market with a ton of really cheap cameras so that more people would buy Kodak film. Around the 30s and 40s, they introduced the Retina series, the most premium Kodak cameras ever available. They're made in Germany, and here we have the Retina IIIC, which is the final evolution of the Retina cameras. It was made in 1957 to 1960, and it was introduced in photokina, which I can't believe they actually had back then, for around 70 pounds. I'm hoping this gravelly voice will give me more gravitas when I'm talking about this wonderful old camera, even though I sound like a fucking frog and Warren has to edit all night. We have to keep churning out these AnalogRev episodes. And what better place than the Hong Kong Coastal Defense Museum? These walls mark where Hong Kong defended, I think, against, actually I have no idea. They defended against someone. Oh yeah. The Royal Artillery, the English Royal Artillery, defended in 1941 against the Japanese troops. So there we have it, okay? A brief little history lesson here and over here. 10 years apart, but during World War II, they did have the early versions of the Retina. So this is the later version in the relatively more peaceful era of 1957. But yeah, there we have it. It's okay, it's funny. So this camera actually is, it seems really confusing to use. It's got so many extra kind of like knobs and things and little adjustments. Everything's very manual, but actually once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. This camera can be very intimidating, so it's actually imperative that you look at the manual and study it and know how to use it really well before you try and go for a shoot, or else you can just end up screwing up everything. So I just tested this against, like the metering is really complicated, I'll explain it later. But then I just tested it against my iPhone and the A7, and it's actually a really, really accurate meter. This is a light selenium meter. It's telling me 1/60 f11 to shoot through here. So let's try that out. What that should look like is really abstract, not in a good way I guess, but it's just gonna be like a white line, maybe with some detail, because film is decent at preserving details, and just black. So
after we got the pictures back from the lab, we were actually pleasantly surprised by the consistency of the metering. I expected that a lot more would be overexposed or underexposed, but in general it was quite accurate. This of course is because we were using color negative, although I wouldn't be so optimistic if we were using slide.
Oh my god, holy shit. It's a depression rangefinder. It's really excited to see. There we go. Rangefinder buddies. Woo! No, not yet. Hold on. Actually, this is pretty cool. I kind of want someone to stand here. Okay, and one more. Oh, it's kind of nice. So right now it's telling me to use 30 seconds f2. So.
While most of the Schneider lenses weren't designed for bokeh, the 50f2 can provide decent separation in the depth of field. The Retina IIIC has a pretty interesting design where the aperture blades are actually inside the body, since each lens is just a front element. I don't find the bokeh especially pleasing or smooth, even when wide open, which is something to consider if you're using it for portraits.
So then the Retina 3 system had 4 lenses in total, and we actually have all of them here. We got an 80 f4 right on the lens, 35 f4 which we talked about earlier. We have a 35 5.6, and we have a 50 f2. And the design of the lenses made it so that you couldn't really get super fast aperture stops for these ones, but then you know, they'll do. The 50 f2 matches the serial number of this body. So these two lenses, the lens and the body, were made for each other, you know? If you've ever find one on eBay and the 50 f2 serial number doesn't match the Retina IIIC, someone's been screwing with your camera. Maybe the 50 broke something, but it's not how it was meant to be. You know, this is a natural marriage. These two go together. It's precise, but it needs everything to be matched. I'm hiding. I'm gonna change my film. Go into the dark. The torpedo station to change my film. Oh, it's really cool here. Alright, so I come here to hide from the blistering sun and also to change my film. We finally finished the first roll, and let me show you how to unwind the film in this camera. So right now, I'm just winding until you feel the pressure, just like any other camera. I think I finally got it. It took a long ass time. When you don't have normally we have a motor to do this. So this is pre-motor days and you don't know when to stop. But now there's no tension, you know, now it's just nice and free. So, okay, this is the moment of truth. If I open this and I expose other film, that's why there will be no shots for the first 5 minutes of this video. Warren's shaking his head at me. He's saying no. He's saying no. Yes, okay, wonderful. We've done an elementary photography 101 task. So the thing about this is, most cameras, you change the whole lens. For this, you change just the front element. This is the 50 f2. It's amazing. Look at this, Schneider. It's the size of like a $1 Hong Kong coin, or a euro, €1, or £1, £2, 10p.
£2 or 10p.
So this defines compact. Okay, this is, and then, shit.
You right? You need water?
Yeah.
Ian? Water, Ian?
This thing is like so prehistoric. The more I use it, the more I appreciate not having to do all these small little things. Not like rewinding. Rewinding is something you have to always do, but okay. Here right now we're using ISO 400, right? Here now we're using ISO 400. I gotta change this down to 400. So now when I move the arrow down here, it says to use 14 or 15 of this light value. So I gotta go here, change it to a 14, 15.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So now it's 14 because we changed films. This is very strange to use because we mentioned yesterday that these are basically just the front elements of the lenses. The focusing is still here in the back, right? This is the focusing mechanism. It goes up and down, up and down. So here, even though you focus, nothing actually moves inside. So the way that you would achieve focus with these 3 extra lenses, which is why it's kind of a hassle. So here we have the 80 f4. So what we do is, step 1, we'll look through the viewfinder. Step 2, that was step 2, 15 feet. Move it down here to 15. Step 3, find 15. So here we find 15. 15 goes here, and then it says use 6. Step 4, we change this now to 6. Okay. And now it jammed. It always jams. Using this camera and trying to fix it, it's kind of like, you know, when your fridge or your computer doesn't work and you just keep smashing it. It's like a very kind of caveman-like approach to fixing this lens. Oh, there we go. So I couldn't wind it and now I can. So put it back down to 6, try again. Okay, now I can keep shooting. You shouldn't take things for granted. So now when people complain, oh man, my camera only has, 40, dots or 40 points for focusing instead of 100 or 200 or something. Like, just think about this, okay? Just think about this. Think about us using this camera. It's fucking difficult. After using this camera for 2 days, I have a lot of complaints. Like, it jams up all the time. It's, it's clunky. It's super hard to use. It's really complicated, but not unnecessarily because it's just because of how it was back then. But at the same time, I can't be that negative because it does have disadvantages. It is super manual, so you get a lot of control, and also it is silent. This is as quiet as can be. You look at this and you think it's gonna be noisy and clunky because it's old, but you'd be surprised at how silent and elegant it is. And also I have to note that it's a foldable camera, right? So when it actually folds in with this 50, it is remarkably small. You can put this away. It's quite well built. The parts won't exactly fall off. So you can basically kind of put it in your pocket or in your bag. Pocket will probably break, but you can put it in your bag if you're careful with it, and you know, get some very decent results.
Most of the time, if you're looking for the camera on eBay, you won't find the other lenses. But don't worry, they're not really worth the effort and don't provide any distinctive bokeh. It actually might be best to stick with the 50, since it's really the only lens that the camera was designed to work with. With the 50, you have all of the advantages of the system: compactness, bokeh, sharpness, and none of the clunky focusing. What's cool about the 3C is that it's a working museum of the history of photography. You can see all the steps that engineers have automated over the years, and while the 3C isn't the easiest to use, it's educational and can still produce wonderfully classic images.
Actually, I have a thing about boring. I have a thing about shooting boring things, like bamboo sticks. Don't trust his lies. Don't trust Warren. Don't trust his lies. All right. So this is a 44mm anti-aircraft gun, the British version. British, as in also Warren, who is actually British, and it does perplex us sometimes. We read the comments and people are like, "Why does Warren have a fake British accent?" And we're like, "What are you talking about?" This is one of those things where it's like, you know, it's very weird. Actually, this is Swedish made, not the best example, but yeah.